Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And, okay, so it's been a very, very weird day for gaming. Now, there have been some exciting announcements as well, which we'll, of course, get into. But we also need to go over some strange decisions made by both PlayStation and especially Xbox. Fans are not exactly too happy with what they just announced, and in this situation, Xbox, they might want to go ahead and reconsider their plans going forward. It's not a good look at the very least, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. So we'll go and get into both of those today. As always, though, do hit those buttons below. It's a huge help to the channel and a great way for you to stay up to date with all the daily gaming news. But other than that, let's just go and jump right into it, starting off with some exciting news. Like I said, we do have some exciting news as well because both PlayStation and Nintendo announced that they do have some big reveals planned for tomorrow on April 13th. The first of which is for a little game called Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, at 7 a.m. Pacific time, they're dropping yet another trailer, which will be about 3 minutes long. That doesn't really seem all that long, but you can compile a lot of details in that time frame and a lot of different hints as to what the game will include. I mean, we are only about a month out by this point. Nintendo has certainly kept Zelda details sparse, it seems, and that's the thing here, because there's still some pretty major questions that's yet to be answered. Will this game have dungeons, as an example? That's the big question still looming, but we'll see if maybe we get that answer tomorrow, again at 7 a.m. Pacific time or 10 a.m. Eastern. Now, as for PlayStation, though, they also announced a Final Fantasy 16 focused state of play where they're set to reveal 20 minutes of gameplay. Truthfully, that might be a little bit of overkill here. They've already shown a lot of this game, and I mean, it's looked pretty fantastic up to this point. I'd say most people have probably already formed an opinion on whether or not they're going to get it day one. I know I'm sold on what they've shown so far, easily one of my most anticipated games of the year, but at the same time, if you do want to see some more fine details, I imagine this 20-minute reveal will include a lengthy overview and the different mechanics that Final Fantasy 16 uses. Also, just an extended splice of gameplay rather than an edited trailer, so definitely tune in for its trailer tomorrow on April 13th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time if you're interested. If anything, it seems like both PlayStation and Square Enix are absolutely confident that this game will be good. Now, we also got a new game announcement as the long-running Trine franchise is getting its 5th entry, Trine 5: A Clockwork Conspiracy. It is once again another puzzle platformer where you play as multiple characters to solve puzzles and kind of navigate its world through cooperative mechanics. So this time, there are a few additions. One being a new skill tree where you can upgrade each character and their individual skills that should add an extra layer of gameplay for fans, and they're also experimenting by allowing fans to choose the difficulty of its puzzles. Now, I think that that's kind of interesting there because usually puzzles are pretty set in stone, but with Trine 5, you can actually make puzzles easier. Now, the way they explain this is that they say that the environment doesn't change based on its difficulty, but puzzles on harder difficulty might need something extra to complete. So that is an interesting take on this type of game, but other than that, it does look very similar to past Trine entries, which I say that's a pretty good thing, all things considered, because, well, this franchise has been consistently good pretty much since the first game release back during the PlayStation 360 days. If anything else, though, if you're looking for a fun cooperative game, maybe go ahead and pick up Trine 5 when it releases this summer for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and also PC. Speaking of games that have a good cooperative game mode, though, we need to talk about Redfall. This game is set to release next month on May 2nd. We've talked a lot about this game in the past, though the news today definitely has a lot of fans rethinking on whether or not releasing it on May 2nd is actually a good decision. Okay, so what's happening here is that Arcane posted an update today, and you know what? Let's just go take a look here as to exactly what they had to say. So here you can see they said, Redfall is launching on Xbox consoles with quality mode only. Xbox Series X, 4K resolution, 30 frames per second. Xbox Series S, 1440p at 30 frames per second. And then 60 frames per second performance mode will be added via game update at a later date. So yeah, right now their plan is to release this game with only a 30 frames per second option, and yeah, that's gone over about as well as what you would have probably imagined. Fans are pretty upset about this, and I think that there's actually some justification here. It's a disappointment, and I don't think that there's really any way to sugarcoat that. One of the big benefits of this generation of consoles is that buttery smooth 60 frames per second. In fact, from what I've seen, the majority of gamers do play using performance mode when given that option. It's kind of become the new standard, and you're just not getting that here. So to see a first-party Xbox game not deliver 60 frames per second at launch for a console that's on paper the most powerful console on the market, it's not a good look. And this has made some fans wonder, why not just delay the game? Now, I do understand that some people will play Redfall at 30 frames per second and be perfectly fine with that. That's perfectly okay. But not having that option for 60 frames at launch is, yes, making it a tougher sell. And that is the ultimate issue with what they're doing. I know Xbox probably doesn't want to delay Redfall because they've had multiple major delays this generation already, but sometimes it's necessary. I mean, 4 days before its release, you have Star Wars Jedi Survivor coming out. Then 10 days after its release, you have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So it's releasing between two well-established franchises, very popular ones at that. And for a new IP, that's tough to go up against, and especially now that it's only going to launch with 30 frames per second. Luckily, it will be launching directly into Game Pass, so I'm sure that will help. But I imagine with this news here, a lot of people will just simply wait it out and play it once it gets that 60 frames per patch. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later, but by that point, if it's too long, it'll have less buzz, its reviews will have already been posted, and that could be a mistake. You do not want to start things with bad word of mouth. That's hard to recover from. The thing is, though, I do think Redfall looks like a fun game. I like the setting. The vampires are a unique enemy that we don't usually see in games, and just knowing that it's an Arcane game, the same studio behind Prey and Deathloop, I mean, they're a great studio, so I think that it ultimately will be a fun game when all said and done. Most previews, they seem to echo that sentiment as well. Most critics, they did seem to enjoy it. Now, I know the IGN first gameplay didn't really do it much justice, but a lot of that kind of seemed to be the player itself. But nonetheless, when it comes to launching a game, I personally think it's better to give it every single opportunity to succeed. And I think as of now, there's some questions on whether or not it's getting those opportunities. Again, you do not want to start with bad word of mouth, and 30 frames per second could be a sticking point for some people out there. I will say this much though, Xbox does have a tendency to listen to their fan base if they're loud enough. They do have a history of changing course when necessary. We've seen that with them reversing the Xbox Live Gold price, and even with Halo Infinite after the infamous Craig reveal. So maybe there is a possibility here with some of the outcry today, they might go back and decide to delay Redfall to get 60 frames ready day one at a later date. But you know, at the same time, there's still some unknown questions here. We don't exactly know the timeline as to when 60 frames will be ready. Will this come weeks later? Will it come months later? Or exactly when? That's a major question going forward, and I know some fans don't want to wait all that long, so I know there's going to be different opinions on this matter. Again, some people are going to be perfectly fine with their 30 frames per second, and hey, that's fine. If you prefer that option, then so be it. But let me know what you all think about this. Do you think Xbox should delay Redfall and ensure it has 60 frames day one, or are you happy with them only launching with 30 frames per second? Everybody's different. I completely understand that, so I want to hear y'all's opinions on this subject in the comments below. Now, PlayStation also had a rather strange announcement today, and this is in regards to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. Now, we'll kind of get into the weird part here in just a moment, but first, they did announce its April lineup, which is actually pretty good. They've actually been really consistent in adding quality games throughout the year, and that continues into April with Kena Bridge of Spirits, Doom Eternal, that's a big one, Riders Republic, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus and New Blood, Slay the Spire, Monster Boy, The Evil Within, Bass Master Fishing, Paradise Killer, and then Sackboy: A Big Adventure. They're also adding Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, and Dishonored to PlayStation Plus Premium. A few odd decisions to lock behind that premium wall, considering none of these are actually PlayStation 1 or PlayStation Portable games, but one thing that you're kind of noticing here is that this does include several Bethesda games. As you're starting to see, Xbox has played nice with PlayStation Plus, and it really shows in this lineup here. I'd also say that's a good sign for Activision Blizzard games when and if Microsoft finishes up with that acquisition. They aren't locking Bethesda games away for their own subscription services, and They might do the same with those Activision Blizzard games. They might be open for PlayStation Plus as long as Sony's willing to pay. Overall, though, there might not necessarily be a day one release for PlayStation Plus in the month of April, but there's still definitely some high quality games here. Kena Bridge of Spirits, as an example, that's an easy recommend. First off, I mean, just look at the game. It's absolutely beautiful, which is very noticeable, but it also is a fun game to play. There is a little bit of a Zelda inspiration here. I feel like this game needs more attention, so definitely go check it out when it comes to PlayStation Plus Extra. The same can also be said for Monster Boy. This is a Metroidvania where you can change into different monsters. They all have their different abilities that can be used in combat or traversal. And then lastly, Sackboy Big Adventure. I've talked about this game a few different times on the channel, but this is Little Big Planet's first outing as a 3D platformer, and it works very well. It has all the charm that you might expect, the creative gadgets, and just on top of that, it's a fun cooperative game. So just an overall good month for PlayStation Plus Extra. But this does also include a bewildering decision, because at the bottom of this announcement, they also revealed some games that are leaving PlayStation Plus Extra, and this includes Resident Evil, NBA 2K Playground 2, and then oddly enough, Spider-Man. Yes, a first-party PlayStation game is leaving PlayStation Plus Extra on May 15th. This means that Sony's first-party games might not actually stay on PlayStation Plus Extra permanently. That is one of the huge benefits of a service like this. The fact that you can subscribe and play a large portion of first-party games is a huge benefit, but at least according to this news here, those games might be on a timeline. At the same time, though, we should probably still wait for further confirmation if this will be a trend going forward or if this is just a one-off thing, but this is certainly something to kind of pay attention to going forward. Moving on, though, one last quick update, but Ghostwire Tokyo did release on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass today, and according to early reviews, the wait has been well worth it. Currently, as of this recording, it does have an 84 overall score on Metacritic, though it is important to note that it only has 6 reviews for the time being, so things could still change, all things considered. But from what I was reading, its new update does make for a better overall and just a more refined experience than what released last year on the PlayStation 5. It's kind of being described as the definitive experience, so again, it does look like that wait was well worth it. Now, do keep in mind that this update is available on all platforms, so you can pick this up on a PlayStation 5 as well, but especially for you Xbox Game Pass subscribers out there, it does seem like Ghostwire Tokyo is a must-play game, which again, you can play right now. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asked you all, several big fighting games might release over the next 12 months if rumors prove true. Which one are you most excited about? And as you can see here, the majority of you all did vote for Mortal Kombat 12 with 43%, then 26% of you all voted for Street Fighter 6, and then 17% of you all voted for Tekken 8. It's actually kind of crazy to think that all 3 of these games could possibly release within the next 12 months. The FGC right now is definitely living the good life. But yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat is obviously a very popular franchise, so to see it come away as the winner here, yeah, I'm not overly surprised. I figured it would come between that and Street Fighter. Both these games are legendary in their own ways, but I think Mortal Kombat, because of its single player, I think that it draws a pretty wide fan base to it, just having that story that a lot of people tend to connect with. For me, though, I'm going to go ahead and vote for the 4th secret option, because I'm really hoping that a new Killer Instinct gets announced at the Xbox Showcase this June. I'm a massive Killer Instinct fan, and to this day, Killer Instinct is one of my top 5 most played games ever on Xbox. I put a ton of time into that game, but yeah, I'm really hoping that one gets announced. But nonetheless, fun times ahead for the fighting game community. Let's go. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.